When your wife says she's going to Miami for a 3-day photo shoot and comes back with a tan in the shape of someone else's hands on her back, that's the first warning bell you ignore. My name was Hank, and back then I didn't know that my life had stopped being mine a long time ago. I owned a chain of car washes in Portland, 3 locations, stable income, nothing extraordinary but enough for a normal life. Vivian, my wife, had her own photo studio in the city center. We'd been together for 9 years and our 6-year-old daughter Emma was growing up fast. It seemed like everything was going its course. Work, family, sometimes we even managed to go somewhere on weekends. But that March morning when Vivian returned from another business trip to Miami, something changed. She became somehow distant, as if her thoughts were constantly somewhere there, thousands of miles from our apartment. The phone now always lay screen down. Smiles became rarer. "Are you tired?" I asked one evening when she checked her messages for the 3rd time in an hour. "Just a lot of orders," she replied without looking up from the screen. "Spring season, you know." I knew. But something didn't give me peace. This was the calmest day before the storm. A week later, Jennifer called me, Vivian's friend from college. They hadn't been particularly close in recent years, so the call was surprising. "Hank, we need to talk," her voice was trembling. "In person. It's important." We met at a coffee shop near my office the next day. Jennifer looked confused, spinning a cup of cappuccino in her hands and didn't know where to start. "I saw Vivian in Miami," she finally exhaled. 2 weeks ago. I was there for a marketing conference. They were in a restaurant, with a man. Hank, they weren't just having dinner. They were behaving like a couple. The world seemed to stop. "Who is he?" My throat went dry. "His name was Larry, at least that's what she called him." I remembered because it seemed strange she said his name so tenderly. He looked like a successful businessman, expensive suit, confident posture. "Hank, I'm sorry. I thought maybe it's just a business partner, but the way he held her hand, it was more than business." I sat there trying to digest what I'd heard. 9 years of marriage. A daughter. A shared life. And suddenly, some Larry from Miami. And that's only half the story. The next few days I spent in a strange trance watching Vivian. Her every gesture, every word took on new meaning. I couldn't just approach and ask. I needed facts, understanding of the situation. I started checking bank card statements that came to email. Miami. Miami again. Miami once more. In the last 5 months she'd flown there 6 times. 6. And I thought it was all work. One evening when Vivian put Emma to bed I finally decided. "Tell me about Larry," I said calmly, sitting on the couch with a cup of coffee. She froze at the bedroom door. Color drained from her face. "How do you?" she began, but her voice broke off. "Doesn't matter how. Tell me the truth. What happened after that is worth hearing." Vivian sat down across from me, and I saw tears appear in her eyes. She didn't deny, didn't try to make up stories. Just started talking. Larry had been her boyfriend before we met. They broke up because he moved to Miami to develop his real estate business, and she stayed in Portland. That was 11 years ago. They accidentally met last October when Vivian really was on a work photo shoot. He ordered a corporate shoot for his office. They started communicating. Then meeting. "I didn't plan this, Hank," she said through tears. "Just happened. Larry was always that person I could talk to about everything. You and I have become so distant from each other lately." Distant? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Instead of talking to me, you decided to fly to another man?" "I love you, Hank. I really do. But I also love him. I don't know what to do. I've been torn between you both all these months." That was the moment when I realized, there's no going back. I didn't yell. Didn't break dishes. Just sat and looked at the woman I'd lived with for 9 years and understood that I didn't know her at all. She loves us both? How is that even possible? How can you destroy a family, betray trust, and at the same time talk about love? "I need time to think," I said. "Can you go to your sister's for a few days?" The next morning Vivian packed her things and left. I kept Emma with me, explaining that mommy needed to go to work. The child shouldn't have seen what was happening between adults. I thought a lot. And the more I thought, the more I understood that just divorce was too easy for her. Vivian wanted to have everything: me, Larry, stability, and adventures. She wanted to play in 2 gardens at once. And I decided to show her that there are consequences in life. The first thing I did was call Larry. I found the number in Vivian's phone, which she forgot at home in her hurry. He answered after the 3rd ring. "Larry? My name is Hank. Vivian's husband." Pause on the other end of the line. "Listen, man, Not man," I interrupted. "I just want you to know one thing. Vivian didn't tell you the whole truth, right? She said that we're almost divorced? That everything between us is over? She said you have problems? We were living absolutely normally until she started flying to you. We have a 6-year-old daughter. We've been together 9 years. And for the last 5 months, my wife has been leading a double life, telling me about work trips. Now you know the truth. I hung up. This was only the first part of the plan. And the finale of this story surprised even me. Through a lawyer, I started the divorce process. The documents were drawn up clearly. I demanded equal division of property, but also wanted primary custody of Emma, considering Vivian's unstable lifestyle and her constant trips. But most importantly, I offered her conditions she couldn't refuse. Vivian could get her half of the money from our joint accounts and half the value of the property, but only if she signed an agreement that she wouldn't object to my primary custody of our daughter and that she would publicly acknowledge the reason for divorce. Yes, publicly. You want me to tell everyone about Larry? She asked at one of the meetings with lawyers. No, I replied calmly. I want you to tell the truth to our mutual friends, our families, and your studio clients. I want everyone who knows us both to learn why our family fell apart. Not from me, not from rumors, from you personally. She was in shock. The lawyer tried to convince me that this was cruel and unnecessary, but I insisted. Either that, or we go through a long court process where I would present all the evidence, card statements, Jennifer's testimony, messages I managed to obtain. You won't guess how this all ends. Vivian agreed. She called a meeting at her photo studio, invited close friends and relatives. I wasn't present, I didn't need to be there. But I knew she would keep her word because otherwise she would lose much more. That evening she told everyone the truth. About Larry, about the double life, about destroying the family for the sake of past love. People she respected looked at her with disappointment. Her reputation as a photographer who built her business on client trust cracked. But the most interesting thing happened a week later. Larry called me again. I didn't know, he said. Really didn't know the whole truth. Vivian didn't tell me a lot of things. When I found out about your daughter that you really were a happy couple, I understood what I got into. I ended things with her. This isn't right. Vivian lost everything. Larry left her when he understood the scale of deception. Our mutual friends turned away. Clients started canceling orders after rumors about her personal life spread around the city. Portland isn't that big, and in creative circles everyone knows everyone. Don't turn off, it's about to get intense. The divorce was finalized in 3 months. I got primary custody of Emma, Vivian, visitation rights on weekends. Property was divided equally as were savings. She received her half of the money, about $90,000 that had been accumulating over the years. I got mine. But the price she paid was much more than money. Her photo studio began to decline without a constant flow of clients. Reputation, the most valuable thing for a creative business, was destroyed. Larry blocked her everywhere after the last conversation. She tried to restore contact, but he was adamant. He felt deceived just like me. 6 months later, she sold the studio and moved to Seattle to start everything anew. Emma stayed with me in Portland. We see Vivian twice a month when she comes. Relations are cold but polite, for the child's sake. I don't regret what I did. Vivian wanted to have everything without paying for consequences. She wanted to play with other people's feelings, break lives, and remain good at the same time. I just showed her reality. Not through revenge, not through anger, through justice. But the story doesn't end there. What I didn't expect was how deeply this would affect everyone involved. My life, which seemed to be getting back on track, was about to take several more unexpected turns. A month after the divorce was finalized, I received a letter. Not an email, not a text message, an actual handwritten letter delivered to my apartment. The handwriting was unfamiliar, elegant, slightly shaky. I opened it sitting at the kitchen table while Emma was at school. Dear Hank, it began. My name is Margaret. You don't know me, but I know about you. I'm Larry's ex-wife. We divorced 3 years ago and I thought I'd moved on. But recently, a mutual friend told me about what happened between Larry and your wife. I felt I needed to write to you because there are things you should know. I leaned back in my chair, my heart racing. What else could there possibly be? Margaret's letter continued, Larry has a pattern. I wasn't his first affair during our marriage, and Vivian wasn't his first after our divorce. He has a way of making women feel special, like they're the only ones who truly understand him. He told me the same things he probably told Vivian, about fresh starts, about destiny, about how his current situation was temporary. When I found out about his affairs, I was devastated. But what hurt most was discovering that everything he said was a script he'd used before. The letter went on for 3 pages. Margaret detailed how Larry would target women who were in committed relationships, viewing them as a challenge. How he'd create an elaborate fantasy of a future together, only to disappear when things got complicated or when someone more interesting came along. How he'd left her financially drained and emotionally destroyed. "I'm not writing this for sympathy," Margaret wrote in closing. "I'm writing because you deserve to know that Vivian wasn't special to him. She was a game. And in a twisted way that knowledge helped me heal. I hope it helps you too. Also, you should know, Larry recently got engaged to someone new. A woman from Seattle. I thought you might want to tell Vivian, though I understand if you don't." I sat there for a long time after reading the letter. Seattle. Vivian had moved to Seattle. Was it possible? Could she still be hoping for something with Larry, not knowing he'd already moved on to his next target? Part of me wanted to tell her. Not out of kindness, but because I wanted her to feel the full weight of what she'd thrown away. She'd destroyed our family, lost her business, damaged her relationship with our daughter. All for a man who saw her as nothing more than entertainment. But then I thought about Emma. Every action I took, every decision I made rippled out and affected her. Did I want to be the kind of father who couldn't let go? Who needed one more twist of the knife? I put the letter in a drawer and decided to focus on what mattered. Building a good life for my daughter and myself. The car wash business was thriving. I'd hired an excellent manager for the day-to-day operations, which freed up my time to be more present for Emma. We developed routines. Breakfast together every morning, reading before bed every night, weekend adventures to parks and museums. Slowly, she started to seem more like herself again. The confusion and sadness that had clouded her eyes after the separation began to clear. But Vivian's weekend visits were becoming increasingly difficult. She'd show up late, sometimes smelling of alcohol. She'd promise Emma they'd do something special, then spend half the visit on her phone. Once, she showed up with a man she introduced as Uncle Derek, which Emma later told me made her uncomfortable. I documented everything. Not because I wanted to take away Vivian's visitation rights, but because I needed to protect my daughter. I kept a detailed log, dates, times, observations, Emma's reactions. I consulted with my lawyer about what would constitute grounds for modification of the custody arrangement. Then came the incident that changed everything. It was a Saturday in late November, almost exactly a year after Vivian's last trip to Miami. She was supposed to pick Emma up at 10 a.m. for their weekend together. By 11 a.m. she still hadn't arrived. No call, no text. I tried reaching her multiple times, straight to voicemail. Emma sat by the window in her favorite dress, the one she'd picked out special for Mommy's visit, her little face growing sadder with each passing minute. Maybe she got stuck in traffic? Emma said hopefully. Before I continue, please pause the video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any new interesting stories. Thank you. Maybe, sweetheart, I replied, though a cold dread was settling in my stomach. By 2 p.m. I was genuinely worried. I called Vivian's sister, Sarah, who still lived in Portland. Hank? No, I haven't heard from her since Thursday. She called me crying about something, but she wouldn't tell me what. Said she needed to figure some things out. What's wrong? I explained the situation. Sarah promised to try reaching Vivian and call me back. At 4 p.m. my phone rang. It was a Seattle number I didn't recognize. Mr. Hank Morrison? This is Swedish Medical Center in Seattle. Your wife listed you as her emergency contact. She's been admitted to our facility. My blood ran cold. What happened? Is she okay? She's stable now. She was brought in this morning. The doctor can give you more details, but she's asking for you. I arranged for my neighbor to watch Emma and drove to Seattle, my mind racing through possibilities. An accident? An illness? Something worse? When I arrived at the hospital, a nurse directed me to Vivian's room. She looked small in the hospital bed, pale and exhausted. Her eyes were red from crying. Hank, she whispered when she saw me. You came. What happened, Vivian? She closed her eyes. I saw them. Larry and his fiancée. They were at a restaurant near my apartment. She was wearing my necklace, the one I left at his place in Miami. The one he said he'd keep safe for me because it was special. The pieces clicked together. You've been in contact with him. I thought, after things cooled down, maybe we could try again. He kept texting me saying he made a mistake, that he missed me. I believed him. I've been so alone, Hank. The business in Seattle isn't working out. I barely see Emma. Everything I touch falls apart. Larry was the only thing that made sense. And this morning? This morning I was supposed to meet him for breakfast. He'd said he had something important to tell me. When I got to the restaurant, I saw them through the window. He was holding her hand, looking at her the way he used to look at me. And she was wearing my necklace. I couldn't breathe. Everything went dark. Someone called an ambulance. They said it was a panic attack. I stood there, looking at the wreckage of the woman who had been my wife. Part of me wanted to feel satisfaction. This was justice, wasn't it? She'd gotten exactly what she deserved. But mostly I just felt tired. Why am I listed as your emergency contact? I never changed it. I guess I never really let go either. Vivian, you need help. Professional help. This isn't just about Larry or our marriage. You're spiraling. I know, she sobbed. I know I've ruined everything. Emma probably hates me. You definitely hate me. I hate myself. I don't hate you, I said and realized it was true. I'm angry. I'm disappointed. But I don't hate you. And Emma doesn't hate you, she loves you. She was sitting by the window in her favorite dress today, waiting for you. Vivian's face crumpled. I forgot. Oh God, I forgot. What kind of mother forgets her own daughter? The kind who's in crisis and needs help. Listen to me, you need to check into a treatment program. Get therapy. Figure out who you are outside of relationships with men. Not for me, not even for Emma right now. For yourself. We talked for another hour. I helped her find information about a mental health treatment program in Seattle that specialized in relationship addiction and depression. She agreed to check in after being discharged from the hospital. Before I left, she grabbed my hand. Thank you for coming. After everything I did, you still came. You're Emma's mother. That will never change. But Vivian, you need to understand that your relationship with Emma depends on you getting healthy. I can't let her keep getting hurt by broken promises and missed visits. If you want to be in her life, you need to do the work. I will, she promised. I swear I will. I drove back to Portland in darkness, my mind full of complicated thoughts. The revenge I'd enacted, making her confess publicly, watching her lose everything, had been satisfying in the moment. But seeing her in that hospital bed, I realized that she'd been punishing herself far more effectively than I ever could. The next few months brought changes. Vivian did check into treatment. She called Emma once a week at scheduled times, brief calls but consistent ones. She didn't ask to visit until her therapist agreed she was ready. When she finally did come to Portland for a supervised visit 3 months later, she was different. Calmer. More present. She spent the entire 3 hours focused entirely on Emma, no phone, no distractions. I'm sorry I missed our day together, she told Emma. I was sick but I'm getting better. I'm learning how to be a better mommy to you. Emma, resilient as children are, accepted this. It's okay, Mommy. Daddy says everyone makes mistakes. The important thing is trying to fix them. I watched them together and felt something shift inside me. The anger that had fueled me for so long was finally starting to dissolve. Not because I'd forgiven everything, some things couldn't be forgiven, but because I realized that carrying that anger was only hurting me and, by extension, Emma. Vivian never returned to Portland permanently. She built a smaller, quieter life in Seattle, working as a photographer for a hospital system, documenting newborns and families. It wasn't glamorous, but it was stable. She attended her therapy sessions religiously. She paid her child support on time. She showed up for Emma's important events, school plays, birthday parties, parent-teacher conferences, and she showed up sober and present. One evening about 18 months after that hospital visit, Vivian and I had coffee while Emma was at a friend's house. It was the first time we'd been alone together since the divorce. I need to tell you something, Vivian said. I need to thank you. For what? For not letting me off easy. If you just divorced me quietly, let me play the victim, told everyone we'd grown apart, I would never have hit bottom. I would never have gotten help. Making me face what I'd done, making me tell everyone the truth, it was the hardest thing I've ever done. But it was also what I needed. I didn't do it to help you, I said honestly. I did it because I was angry and hurt. I know. But sometimes the right thing happens for the wrong reasons. I destroyed our marriage, Hank. I destroyed our family. And I'm sorry. Not the kind of sorry that expects forgiveness or wants to undo consequences. Just, sorry. You deserved better. Emma deserved better. Yes, I agreed. We did. We sat in silence for a moment. Are you happy now? She asked. I thought about it. I'm content. I have Emma, I have my work, I have a life that makes sense. That's enough. I hope someday you find more than enough. You deserve someone who will appreciate what they have. Maybe someday, I said. But right now, I'm focused on being the best father I can be. As I drove home that night, I reflected on the journey from that March morning when Jennifer had called me to this November evening. The man who had sat in that coffee shop learning about his wife's betrayal felt like a different person. That man had been consumed by pain and the need for justice. This man had found peace. The revenge I'd taken hadn't been about cruelty, it had been about accountability. Vivian had wanted to rewrite history, to control the narrative, to minimize the damage she'd caused. I'd refused to let her do that. And while the public confession had been devastating for her in the short term, it had also prevented her from falling into patterns of denial and blame shifting that would have destroyed her completely. Larry had moved on to his next victim. According to Margaret's letters, we'd started a strange pen-pal friendship, two people connected by shared experience with the same manipulator. The woman in Seattle had eventually figured out his patterns and left him. He'd apparently moved to California, starting the cycle again with someone new. But that wasn't my concern anymore. My concern was Emma's upcoming school science fair, her growing confidence, the way she'd started laughing more freely again. My concern was the new manager I'd hired at the third car wash location who had innovative ideas about customer service. My concern was the book I was reading, the meal I was planning to cook, the present moment. Vivian had taught me an important lesson, though not the one she'd intended. She taught me that you can't control other people's choices. You can only control your response to them. I'd chosen to respond with clear boundaries, with accountability, with protection for my daughter and myself. I hadn't chosen to respond with ongoing bitterness or the need to continue punishing her beyond the natural consequences of her actions. Sometimes at night, when Emma was asleep in her room and I sat on the balcony with a cup of coffee looking at the lights of Portland, I thought about those 9 years. About what had been real and what had been illusion. About how many times Vivian had lied to my face with a smile. About how she'd kissed me before flying to another man. And I understood one simple thing. Trust is the foundation. When it's destroyed, everything is destroyed. No matter how much love there was, how many memories, how many shared years. If a person is capable of looking you in the eyes and lying, that person was never who they pretended to be. Vivian lost a husband, a lover, a reputation, a business, and daily contact with her daughter. All because she couldn't make a choice, couldn't be honest, couldn't respect the person with whom she created a family. And me? I got my daughter back, got my life back, and most importantly, got peace. That peace that comes when you know you've done everything right. That you didn't allow yourself to be a victim who silently swallows offense. That you showed, every action has consequences. Now I have 3 car washes that work better than ever. Emma is happy, developing, goes to a good school. And Vivian is somewhere there, in Seattle, trying to collect the fragments of a life she shattered herself. Justice doesn't always come quickly. But it always comes. YouTube may no longer suggest my channel to you, so subscribe to it to receive new interesting stories. You will also help the channel grow and improve the quality of its content. The screen now displays a playlist with other interesting stories that you can listen to. You can also write in the comments what stories you would like to see on the channel.